Hey guys, it's been a while. I've been on a mountain climbing adventure, but that is besides the point. In Splatoon 3 Drizzle season, we now know all the 10 weapon kits that are coming into the next season. In this video, I want to cover all of them to determine which ones are going to be really good and which ones might not be as so favorable. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I know you haven't. With that being said, let's get started. So starting at the bottom, we have the Wringer, which is one of the new sloshers coming into Splatoon 3 Drizzle season. It's a burst firing slosher. Basically, when you throw one slosher input, there's a burst of two sloshers that come out one after the other. And with this weapon, it also comes with Suction Bomb and Reslider. Now, like we've seen before in the gameplay footage of this weapon, it has somewhat of a slow-ish sloshing speed, a little bit slower than the Sloshing Machine currently right now, so that's something that a lot of people are going to have to get used to. However, with the addition of this kit, Suction Bomb's always a really nice sub-weapon to have. I feel like with Suction Bomb, it's going to just be helpful to keep players away from you and maybe actually space them out better so you can actually get your both sloshes onto a person. And the Reslider enables it to actually take advantage on situations where you notice that your enemies are kind of messing around in ink and they don't expect the Reslider to come through. So it's great for entry. It's going to be good for splat zones in that sense because I feel like Reslider just for basically just capping a zone just completely is also very, very good. The only thing you're going to have to really worry about is just that, like I said, that slow sloshing speed. So once you come out of a Reslider dismount, it's going to be maybe a little bit awkward because, you know, you're going to have to probably just swim out of there instead of like try to take on an enemy that wasn't expecting you to Reslider or something like that. So but all in all, I think the kit is decent for this weapon, and it looks like it's going to be really fun to play. Next, we have the Heavy Edit Splatling, and this weapon has Curling Bomb and Tacticooler. Now, how this weapon works, if you haven't seen the video already, basically it's a Splatling where the longer you charge the Splatling itself, the higher the fire rate is going to be. So if you charge it for a quarter, the fire rate's not going to be so fast. But if you charge it fully, it's going to be spurting a bunch of ink almost everywhere. I feel like this weapon is going to be a mixture between support and being somewhat aggressive at the same time. Probably more support because I feel like the amount of ink that you're going to be able to actually output for just your team in general is going to be so helpful for just keeping a bunch of control and all that. I think it also pairs so well with Tacticooler because when a weapon is able to paint a whole ton and is paired with Tacticooler, it's just basically a farm for it. And undoubtedly, if this weapon is played well, it's going to be able to farm Tacticoolers for your team so quickly. Curling Bomb, on the other hand, for this weapon, some might think it's a little bit awkward, but I feel like it's kind of a tool just for you to get out of situations, basically escape. Of course, you can just throw it at enemies if you really want to, but I feel like just for escaping, it's going to be really helpful. Let's just say that you're trying to, I guess, develop a full charge and you don't feel like you have enough time to do that, and you want to actually back up so you can actually, you know, get into a more prominent position for that. I feel like the Curling Bomb is going to be much more helpful to enable you to back up into those situations so you can actually get into a position for that full charge. The full charge for this weapon does take a long time to actually fully charge up, so I think the Curling Bomb for that is going to be super helpful. Next up, we have the custom Goo Tuber, and interestingly enough, it has Fizzy Bombs and Ultra Stamp. Now, the Fizzy Bombs for this weapon, Fizzy Bomb is undoubtedly one of the strongest bomb weapons that you can have. With this particular weapon, you're going to be able to throw that much further than this weapon can even shoot. The Goo Tuber is very nice if you can play it, mainly because of its, I guess, unique gimmick of being able to take out opponents at a lower charge rate instead of a full charge compared to other snipers. So it's not exactly horrendous like some people would say. The special it has is Ultra Stamp, and that might be a little bit awkward for some, but in my honest opinion, I don't think it is as bad as some might think, mainly because it's going to be so helpful for you to be able to take out things in closer range. Like if you feel threatened about taking out something in close range and you didn't feel like you had the time to actually get the supercharge out, then the Ultra Stamp is more or less going to be somewhat of a panic special or a protective close range special just to assure your own livelihood when using this weapon. I just said livelihood. I mean living ability, but you know what I mean. It's just a strange word to use for this thing. Next up is the Octobrush Nouveau. It has Squid Beacon and Ink Storm. Now, I was saying beforehand, I really wanted this thing to just have Kraken again. It has had Kraken before in the past in Splatoon 1, but in this game it has Ink Storm, which is a interesting pick. I think Beacon with this weapon is also just very, very solid. Like, I feel like with this weapon, you have so much mobility just to get from one place to another, and being able to put beacons down is going to be really, really nice for this weapon. Especially just jumping at beacons and just like swinging your brush around to any nearby people that are around there. However, I still think it probably would have been so much better if it actually had Kraken. I feel like it'd just be a much more aggressive option for this weapon to just like take advantage of. Inkstorm is nice in the form of just like moving enemies away, which is, you know, it is what it is. I feel like you can still play well with it, especially like you throw an Inkstorm down in a narrow area and then you use like Ninja Squid Octobrush to like, you know, inch yourself with the Inkstorm and then like play around it with that. So I feel like in that sense it can work in some way. I still would have liked it to have Kraken, but it is what it is. I still see that there is some potential in this weapon. However, I feel like this weapon is more solo-minded in terms of its special, instead of there being more team play aspects towards it. Of course, I guess you can say team play and support that it has is by the beacons, but the main weapon and the Inkstorm, I feel like you use that selfishly, which, you know, it is what it is. Right, now we're at this weapon, which is the Ballpoint Splatling Nouveau, which has Ink Mine and Ink Vacuum. Now, this is by far just an extremely defensive weapon. It's kind of a thing where you're going to get into positions to put your Ink Mines in front and also just back away from it and just allow people to actually walk into those ink mines, and you probably finish them off with the Ballpoint Splatling itself. In situations where things are getting a little bit rocky, where there's a bunch of ink coming from the opposition, I feel like that's where the Ink Vacuum comes in. And the thing is about this weapon, or weapons much like the Ballpoint Splatling that have Ink Vac, maybe like the regular Rapid Blaster, I feel like weapons like this are always going to be in solid positions when using your Ink Vacuum. You're not exactly going to be up front into people's faces and then start using Ink Vacuum and, you know, expecting it to actually do something. You're more or less going to be a little bit further back to actually use that Ink Vacuum. Like the Jet Scorcher also kind of follows that same trait. The regular 96 also follows that same trait. So it's just like, you know, this was I guess one of the longer range weapons that can follow that same trait, which has quite a lot of decent killing power to it too. So to be honest, I don't even think that this weapon's super horrible. I think it's actually going to be like a really, really nice defensive option, and it's just going to be super annoying to actually like get close to when there's just ink mines in front of it and you being able to use the Ink Vacuum for your own defenses and all that. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting weapon to see how this goes. The Bloblobber Deco. Now, there was a particular special I really wanted this weapon to have, but it didn't get it. But just to explain what this weapon has, it has the Angle Shooter and Kraken. Did not see Kraken coming. However, how I feel about this weapon, I'm not so sure about it. Angle Shooter is one thing, and you know, you can use Angle Shooter however you want in whatever situation. Kraken, in my honest opinion, I still don't see people wanting to use this weapon for a Kraken when you clearly have the 96 Gal Deco and the heavy Splatling Deco. My reasoning for this is due to dismounting out of the Kraken. Let's just say that you dismount out of the Kraken in a very contested area where a bunch of enemies are looking at you. When you have the 96 Gal, you have the splash wall to play with. When you're using the heavy Splatling, at close range, it's still able to actually hold its own in a decent way. But the Bloblobber, in the other hand, it's a little bit of an awkward issue. Because close range with this weapon is definitely not its strong suit, and it's extremely hard to make sure that you can confirm all 4 blobs actually leading up into somebody that's in close range. This is genuinely my only issue with it. Like, I think Kraken is always going to be nice and great for initiation and all that type of stuff. And if you're able to dismount out of the Kraken in safe places, then, you know, go ahead and use this thing. But I can't ignore that it might be a little bit awkward if you're into people's faces using this thing. So it's just one of those weapons that you're going to have to really play Kraken differently compared to, of course, even a Krakon roller as well, which just has much better close range potential too. So we're moving on to the Sorella Brella. This weapon has Autobomb and Inkjet. Now, we've never seen a Brella have an Inkjet, and let's just say, fingers crossed, that the Splat Brella actually gets buffed. This weapon's going to be so good. If it gets buffed in the intended ways to make it more of a weapon that you'd want to use, then pairing it with Inkjet is going to make it a very, very popular weapon. Currently, your Inkjet options are like the Tri-Slosher, the Ballpoint, the Rapid Blaster Deco, of course, and of course the Splasher Nova. But I feel like the Splat Brella is covering like a different kind of range category. that if it could fight well with its range, then it would perform extremely well. And eventually, when they do that with the main weapon, I feel like that this weapon's going to be such a threat to, you know, just fulfilling another inkjet slot. The gold Dynamo roller. It's been a year since we've seen this weapon, and it's finally actually making its appearance. This weapon has Splat Bomb and Super Chump, and it's somewhat sort of like a throwback to the one in Splatoon 1, which also did have Splat Bomb. But instead of having Ink Strike, it has Super Chump. Now, to be quite honest, I'm not too sure how this weapon's going to perform super well with Super Chump. Like, I guess if this weapon can develop Super Chump quicker than other weapons, then it's going to be quite nice. Like, it's in a decent range category to actually be able to use Super Chump too. So really, I feel like that's just the only big thing, is just like this weapon will be really good depending on how fast it can get Super Chump. Because if it doesn't get it so fast, then it's going to be a little bit and you probably would still use the other one in general. The Splat Bomb is going to be always really nice to have, but I just think this weapon will only perform really well if it can get Super Chump really fast. And speaking of weapons that will get Super Chump really, really fast, is none other than the Inkline Tri-Stringer, which has Sprinkler and Super Chump. Now, if you remember, the Tri-Stringer did have a buff pretty much a while ago, basically a painting buff that really helps it be able to actually develop special much quicker. With the addition of this weapon also getting Sprinkler, it's going to allow it to actually build special really quickly, as long as you're able to put your Sprinkler in good places to actually get some ink down. So this may or may not be the fastest developing Super Chump weapon in the game. This is just a prediction, like it might not even be, but depending on how many special points it gets, I feel like this weapon can actually develop Super Chump pretty quickly. And to be honest, in the positions that you're probably going to be standing with this weapon, I feel like you're going to be able to use Super Chumps in such annoying ways and such good positions as well. So yeah, this might be a really decent painting weapon for backlines, really. That's how I'm kind of seeing it, because like everything about it is just super paint oriented. Some people might play the original Tri-Stringer over this one, but this one just seems like a super painter in my opinion. So yeah, it's really interesting. Like, some might not be happy about the Sprinkler. Let's just say if I wanted a buff Sprinkler, I'll just allow people to throw 2 sprinklers, all right? I think that's probably the next play for sprinklers and all that. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. And lastly, out of the 10 weapons, we have the Neo Sloshing Machine. And this weapon in particular is actually a throwback weapon. This is the Sloshing Machine Neo that was in Splatoon 1, which had Point Sensor and Inkzooka. Of course, in Splatoon 3, it has a Trizooka. Now, the thing that we have to point out with this weapon is that it's going to be much different in this game compared to Splatoon 1. Like, first of all, the Sloshing Machine in this game is just far better than the one in Splatoon 1. But on top of that, we have perks in this game that this weapon can really take advantage of. If you've played the Octobrush Nouveau or you've played the H3, you would know that opening Gambit can be really good with those weapons, mainly because this weapon has Point Sensor. Now, this entirely depends on how frequently you're going to be throwing the point sensors. To be honest, I feel like the point sensors are going to be super helpful for this weapon just in general, just so that you actually know where you want to throw your next slosh and be able to kill confirm people that are in this game. So for the weapon itself, it's going to be really nice. But on top of that, you're going to be speeding around so quickly if you're using an opening gambit. So being able to finish off things when the opening gambit is enabled is going to be super key for this weapon. Of course, you have the Trizooka, which right now in this current day is a very strong special. So taking out things that are much longer range than you and maybe somewhat breaking distance and, you know, pushing people away in different positions, it's also going to be very helpful with this weapon as well. I feel like there's a lot to be excited for this particular weapon, so, you know, I'm hyped for it, and I'm wondering how you guys are feeling about it. So with that being said, guys, what weapons are you mostly looking forward to in Splatoon 3 Drizzle Season? There's 10 of them, and there's a bunch of them to try, so let me know in the comment section below. And with all that being said, I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe as well. And yeah, that's all from me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you guys in a future video.